I am a huge Code Lyoko fan, a Noam amateur. Me and my husband grew up watching the show when it would air in America. We have every episode on DVD. We have all the music, the books, and even the video games. We have XANA symbols tattooed on our arms. We have matching XANA bracelets made by my best friend. We are currently hunting for the toys. We speak and read French even, since a lot of the stuff we have is in French. We used to be in a long-distance relationship. BZ. We met online, on computers. Much like Jeremie, Belpois, and Aelita Stones. Other fans actually called us Jeremie and Aelita. When we got married, I cut off all my hair and dyed it pink, like Aelita. We went to France like every Code Lyoko freak did. We visited the school that Caddick Junior High was based on. Again, like every Code Lyoko freak did. We relished in the glory that was Code Lyoko. He was bummed that the factory had been demolished. I figured France hid that fact that it was still up. Too many noisy tourists flocked to France to see it. The factory is the place where Jeremie met Aelita via the supercomputer. When he went to bed that night, I decided to go look for the factory. I managed to find the bridge, but no factory. I sighed. Code Lyoko was the whole reason I even learned about France. Growing up with a racist, France was not well liked in my house. I looked up and the sky opened up and began to rain down. I had no parade to rain on. I took one last look and saw the factory. I rubbed my eyes. I had to be fangirling to the extreme. No, it was really there. The rain came down harder, stinging my flesh. Any longer of me standing in the downpour, and my pink tights would turn see-through. I ran inside, shelter from the rain. The factory was much different than in the show. The walls were thick with rust, and drums and old fences piled up in random corners. I turned on my flashlight. The small light cast willowy shadows against the rusty walls. My footsteps echoed into the dark nothingness that was the bowels of the factory. By the time I wanted out, I was lost in the maze of the factory. I had gone up stories and was horribly lost. I figured I'd call my husband to come pick me up. Not only would I get to go back to the hotel room, he'd get to see the factory. I got my pink cell phone from the pocket of my A sleep shirt, but something caught my eye. A red light flashed on and off near the staircase, like a warning. I went over to the light, like a moth to a flame. I reached out to touch it, to see what it was attached to. Before I could touch the red orb, a head fell from above and landed in my hands. It wasn't the head of some random French person, but the severed head of William Dunbar. I screamed and danced away from the head as it smacked onto the ground. Why? Why the fuck did I come into some abandoned factory that wasn't there one moment and was there the next? And why did a severed head of a cartoon character fall from the black nothingness of the ceiling of said abandoned factory? I was probably just fangirling hard and decided there was no head. I started to climb the stairs. I peered down at the head from between the stairs and saw it, festering with maggots and black, dried blood. It was there. I did not fangirl hard. William's eyes flickered up at me, and he opened his maggot-infested mouth and screamed at me. I gasped and ran up the stairs. The hallway upstairs was long and crooked, as if the earth underneath the factory wasn't level. The hallway seemed to be glowing green, not an alien glow, but a sign that pointed to the elevator was illuminating everything in a sickly green color. I got next to the elevator, and as I figured, it had no power. I heard from downstairs, 2 boys running and laughing, Nicholas and Herb. I heard Nicholas scream and then a loud clash. The sounds of them died out. I went to investigate what the crash was. I passed a bloody door with its top half broken off, along the long, crooked hallway. Had I passed it before? A long purple-sleeved arm with a gnarled hand reached out and tried to grab me. I screamed and pressed my back to the catwalk railing. The hands curled around the top part of the broken door and shook the door before disappearing. I heard the hands begin to scratch at the door like a puppy locked in a room for the night.
Break, 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 dance.
I screamed and took off running downstairs. That was one of my favorite Code Lyoko songs, which was sung by my favorite Code Lyoko character. Hearing it now, it sounded like his vocal cords had been boiled and sliced with razor blades. I made my way back down the stairs, and an alarm began to go off. The blaring horn came from an electrical panel, which had been knocked off, that hadn't been knocked off before. It was probably what Nicholas had crashed into. A door across the factory floor caught my attention. I ran inside and slammed the door. The room was small and reminded me of a classroom. It had 3 windows that glanced out at the outside world. I took out my cell phone and tried my husband. He didn't pick up, and I left him a frantic message. I went to look out one of the windows to see how high up I was, but the gnarled hand of Ulrich Stern grabbed me. Ulrich's eyes were just sockets, encrusted with black blood, and his mouth was long and black. Ulrich grabbed my arm and jerked me closer, so I was looking into Ulrich's sockets, and he screamed at me. The force of Ulrich's scream spat maggots onto my face. I screamed and twisted away from Ulrich's grasp. I ran out the door in time to see a skeletal Jeremie messing with the power box. I stopped near the stairs and watched him. Jeremie put the cover back on and twisted his neck around with stomach churning, bone-snapping noises. Jeremie narrowed his sockets at me and hissed, a few maggots falling around Jeremie's feet. He grabbed a rotting rat and sucked the thing down before shorting out and disappearing. I heard the elevator from upstairs hiss to life. I jumped as my phone went off. The screen read, "Call from Jeremie." That was the name in my phone for my husband. I answered, and his voice seemed far away, and it crackled in and out.
What are you talking about, baby? There's no...
Break, 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 dance.
I screamed and dropped the phone. There was that fucking song, sang with the boiled and sliced vocal cords again. I ran upstairs to the elevator. I hid in the corner as I could hear Odd pounding on the door, screaming for Kiwi in his boiled and sliced voice. I couldn't take any more of his howling for his dog and opened the elevator doors. Before I could step in, Yumi fell from the ceiling of the elevator. Her neck was broken and her eyes were rolled back. Yumi's lips were a pale blue. She was covered with blood. Yumi crawled towards me, her head upside down, blood trickling from her white eyes. Odd began to sing again.
Break, 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 dance.
I ran for the stairs again. Before I reached the stairs, Aelita's hands appeared on the catwalk, and she pulled herself up. Her head was split in two, and like Yumi, Aelita's eyes were crying blood. I ran the other way, screaming. Yumi was no longer in the box, and I got in and shut the doors. I hit the ground floor and breathed a sigh of relief. The doors opened and the infamous XANA smoke wafted in. I remember waking up in a litter and weed-choked lot where the factory once stood. I tried to tell the story to the cops, to my husband, to my friends, to other Code Lyoko fans, but no one believes me. That is to say, until they watch Code Earth with me. The boiled, sliced voice of Odd loves to sing during that episode.